This is cool. Thank you for doing this, by the way. This will be probably the fourth or fifth time I'm doing one of these, right? But we met at Benzinga, and back then it was just me interviewing and doing, kind of written articles. But I guess this is a step up. But Steven, tell me a little bit about uh, kind of going back in time and when we met. What were you exactly doing at Benzinga at the time?
Yeah, it's very simple. At the time, I had left money.net. I was on when I went to Benzinga itself. It was to help Benzinga Pro, and of course, what we did was I became the senior VP there, in charge of data and coming in and seeing how we're going to make this exciting to people outside the normal financial world, and to make it more of a platform that makes you more of an informed trader. And so, in doing so, one of the biggest things, the challenges in any of that is collaboration and creating, chatting, and creating a feel like I can do better than what I'm doing right now. And we did that, right? We did that with Benzinga Live. We did that with the news, curating the news more to what they were looking for as opposed to scattered news, and seeing that all being put into one place so that we can make tradable ideas and investment theses, as I call it. And that creates a better trader. And that's what we're doing now, actually. But and then, of course, at Benzinga Pro, won awards and moved up in the world. So I'm excited about that, and did a big events, and that makes me very proud. And it
Yeah,
allowed me the ability to move on and create my own thing.
yeah. But prior to that, and I remember talking to you for the very first time when we were doing that interview back then, you had a career in politics, you worked in sports, you worked in markets, and then eventually got into fintech, right? Benzinga and money.net. And eventually now what you're working, our focus mostly is the Quasar market. So before we kind of get into what you're doing now and stuff, I want to rewind and go back in time. Talk a little bit about kind of where did you grow up? How did your early childhood experiences really shape your interest in, early interest at least in politics, and how that eventually led into sports, markets, and fintech? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, Renato. Okay, so let's go way back to the beginning. I have always wanted to be in finance. I always wanted to work the floors of the New York Stock Exchange. I've always wanted to be a part of that as a child. Some kids want to be firefighters and astronauts, and I wanted to be a stockbroker. Um, Look, it was very simple. Back in 1990 and 89 and 1990. I was on my way doing that. I was still in school, and but I got to meet a guy named Jesse Curry out of Jesse Curry Commodities out of Sturgis, Kentucky, actually. And I'm from Southern Illinois. And a long story, I drove every single day for a summer and some winter to literally 2 hours every there and 2 hours back just to learn commodities markets. Look, Renato, I learned how to graph charts on graph paper and pen. We didn't even have the systems that we have today. And I knew from from an early age that technology was going to be the differentiator maker when it comes to these kind of things. And so it has been. And so I have seen technology move up throughout history as we added charting and software of that nature, added better news. CRT screens became computers and desktops and email, and we were able to see the markets much faster in real time. Back then, we had phones on the walls you picked up to make your trades. Today, we don't even think about that. We our phones in front of us. And then, of course, I ended up working in politics on a campaign for a guy named Bill Clinton. I wanted to be in the White House as well. I wanted to be in the highest level of everything I do. An overachiever in a lot of ways. I don't ever want to be something small. I always want to go big. And when I do that, I always look for the biggest and brightest because you know what? I feel like I'm part of that. And so when Bill Clinton won the White House, I'm off to Washington. I went to work as well several places, and now also including NATO and State Department and White House, and I had a good time in DC. Worked very hard, and we accomplished a lot of things. But I also wanted to go on and do other things as well. And I stayed in finance. I was still trading a whole way through, Renato. I mean, people didn't understand why I was, trading gold. Well, guess what? I had access to all the news and data around the world. I knew what was going on around the world. And so I took advantage of that. And I learned even better that the whole world matters, that whatever happens in Japan affects the United States. And so we did that. Um, but then as I left the administration at the end of the administration after the 8 years, I went off to Florida to work in both sports and news and TV when it came to sports, and worked with uh, a product called Brent Broadcast Interface. So I understood the TV side of news and how it all worked and how it all came together and how it came together technology-wise. I've been in technology the whole time. And so it made it very easy. So when I made that switch, but I still was trading, I was still doing all of those fun things that you do around the trading world, and keeping up with that, of course, at a much higher level. And so, doing so, I started to use software. I needed software to trade better, right? And I was using money.net at the time. And then, of course, they just released their software. And I was like, this is great. I love what they're doing, and joined their trading room and helped them build the trading room out. And then eventually, within a few months, was working for the company, and stayed there about 6 years. So I did it a long time. And then, of course, the CEO and owner there passed us away, my friend HL. And then I went to money.net. And then, of course, after money.net, I went to Benzinga. And then after Benzinga, we talked about that. And then off to I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to create my own software. I knew how to do this and wanted to create it in a way that was lifestyle platform. And that's when I started Quasar Markets.
Mhm. Okay. You said a lot, but I want to quickly go back a little bit when you first got exposed to commodities. You said you
Hmm.
were charting, you were what exactly was that experience? And were you actually trading? Was it this like a mentorship type of thing or whatever? What did that exactly look like?
Yeah, so that was exactly right. When I wanted to go into commodities, I was told very simple, kid, if you can learn futures, you can learn anything. Stocks are easy compared to futures. Today, I'm not so sure that I agree with that now, but back then, yeah, because futures were different. Stocks were easy. You bought and sold. That's all you did. You could short, but there were not all of the crazy configurations that you can do today. Back then, in the futures world, it was corn and soybeans and and financial instruments like the 30-year bond and obviously of course currencies, and it was a lot more than just a few stocks. Back then it was also different months, and you could do spreads and all kinds of fun things, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the technology side of that, and having to learn what things actually affect things, meaning that I can go long the spot month of a bond and short the longer term if the trend's going down, right? And I learned like TED spreads, treasuries to the euro dollar, which we don't have today. But I thought that was very cool. But it was also commodities, and I lived in Southern Illinois, so I understood the corn market, I understood wheat and soybeans, and I understood the growing trends and when you plant and when you pull it up out of the ground and how you feed people, and we learned about the carry trade and all the things that were around that, right? How you got that to market. So as I always say, farm to plate, right? How does that happen? And I really enjoyed that. And it's true. If you learn the weather, you can learn futures. If you learn, excuse me, if you learn other things like how does export and import banks work? Well, then all of a sudden you understand how grains work, right? Because countries need to borrow money to buy product, vice versa. And so the whole, it was one of my trading rules. The whole world matters, right? And so I got to learn that in the deep darks of everything on that, and that made me feel good because I got to understand it from a level that I did the average person wasn't understanding, and that gave me a much deeper, better trader than I ever was. And I was a mentor. It was mentored by a guy named Jesse Curry, who was a former Green Beret. And he really understood the markets. He was from Kentucky and he really got it. And I was ingrained there. But
Yeah.
as things go on, you move on and you create, you do your own thing.
Yeah, I wonder if you agree with this, but when you look at stocks or whatever, to me it's a very almost like a two-dimensional type of thing. And when you're talking about kind of the futures and just using derivatives in general, it's much more multi-dimensional, 3D almost in a way where you've got these spreads, you've got certain things that are working for and against you, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And time
yeah,
and external influences that you can control, like when planting, but you can't control the weather. So that's cool, right? In stocks, yeah, there are things that happen. Maybe the rates go up and it's harder to borrow, and maybe then they have a new product coming out. Nvidia has a new chipset or whatever. But in the futures world, man, anything can happen. And of course, natural gas we call it the widowmaker for a reason, like because it travels so fast, and you got to learn about liquidity back then. Things are starting to equate a bit closer now because we have a zero DTEs now, and things of that nature that help, balance that out a little bit. But not really. Futures are the hardest thing to learn. So again,
yeah.
today it's still you learn that you can learn anything. Now it's a lot better now in the stock market. There's a lot more things going on, but man, futures are just wild, and you're also comparing yourself, especially if you're trading commodities and agriculture, um, you're competing against farmers that need to hedge against those things, right? So they may have a good crop of corn, but they're shorting corn because maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe there's a frost coming in, like right now, right?
Yeah.
So there are things that really do affect the markets, and you're playing against real professionals, not just other stockbrokers.
Yeah, I think, in kind of my experience in studying these different markets, whether that's the futures or the options markets, when you look at those things, I think it's you can see the effects of supply and demand much more easily than you can maybe in just stocks outright or something like that, right? When you're talking about, especially commodities, right? And yeah. Um, and then moving on into politics, I think, what gives you kind of a well-rounded perspective or that you have is you can't really understand the full scope of economics without understanding politics, right? And the impact in that. So you got this experience, in markets, the supply and demand, understanding those dynamics and commodity stuff like that, and then you're kind of merging that with that political view. So how do you think those things together really help shape your perspective and how that kind of motivated you to kind of move on from politics or whatever and then become kind of entrepreneurial and build these businesses and so on.
That's very easy. I mean, look, when you're sitting in the White House or you're sitting in the State Department, you kind of know what's happening, right? You know where the export imports are happening. You know where movements and when tariffs and sanctions and who it's going to affect and what it's going to affect. And when a country needs product, let's say, for example, the United States needs silicon and need chipsets and things of that nature. Look, that's easy, right? And we know that China's putting, tariffs on, and then a trade war happens. Well, prices go up, and guess what? Margins go down, and that affects stock prices. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that never even hit the stocks until later. And I think having understanding of how politics and government works, especially different foreign governments, you get a leg up, an edge in that. Because right now, I can tell you that margins at Apple are going to go really smaller because they're going to have to pay up because Vietnamese charge a little bit more than maybe, or maybe when we look at building software, you're using, in my case, I use India, and maybe the commodities in that situation, or currency, right? Right now, currency, the dollar's strong, so we can buy more technology from other countries in that way, as opposed to doing it ourselves. So all of a sudden, that affects margins and that affects stock prices too, as well. Look, if China says to us no more rare earths, all of a sudden TV prices go through the roof. No, we don't get cheap TVs anymore, and TV company prices go go down. So, it helps me create my theses when I'm trading.
Yeah, I think the whole like geopolitical multipolarity type discussion is kind of underestimated because even if you think like, okay, how does it actually affect me? Well, beyond like you see a lot of the stuff on online right now about like underseas internet cables getting cut and stuff like that. I guess that's like the direct impact. Until you actually lose access to your internet or whatever, you don't really take it
My
seriously.
father used to say, I'll never have a computer in my house. I'll never have the internet. And today he goes crazy when the internet goes down, right? It's a change in technology. It's also the change in people's minds and thinking about the future, right?
Yeah,
12 years ago, when I was talking about AI, I think people thought I was nuts, right?
yeah, yeah,
Today, we don't think that now. We now understand AI and we're growing with it, right? But we as individuals, not only do we need to make sure that we are keeping up with technology, but keeping up in technology when we're investing too, right?
sure.
Okay, look, I see a good opportunity. Investing is not about buying to buy and keep buy and trade all the time. It's also about creating wealth. And in creating wealth, you need to have a good, strong opinions about what's going on in the world. And you say, you know what, this stock is undervalued, or this commodity is undervalued. That's why I'm going long, because there's a mismatch in price. And tell me whenever I'm talking to somebody, an investor, tell me exactly why you invested in this. All right. So, I think when you create those theses, you need to have a much better and clearer picture. And I think that's what give me an edge. And I think, when we look at technology in the future, we need to have that edge. We need to understand it, but not just understand it as how to use it, but how to take advantage of it, how to make us, and especially in the AI situation, how to make us a better trader, how to make us better in life. For example, AI makes me more efficient. I'm able to, move faster, and I'm able to do more things.
Yeah,
I'm able, one of the things that we want to do at Quasar Markets is remove all of these trading screens that I have. As you know, Renato, I'm surrounded by trading screens. But what if I get rid of all of that? I just have a desk in front of me, and then I have a wearable in front of me, as opposed to having 60, in my case, 70-inch screens in front of me, and 40s on the sides, and surrounded, and getting rid of all of that. That technology makes us smarter and more efficient,
yeah,
and it gives us an edge. And I think that's the key. Algorithmic trading was never around for the last. Realize this: algo trading, in the way that we use it today, high frequency trading, wasn't even around 10 years ago,
yeah,
right? If you think about it I just heard a good analogy of this the other day. Neil deGrasse Tyson said this. He goes, if you look back in the year 1912,
yeah,
if you look at video from back then, and it was hard to see video because it was a movie thing, right? Everywhere you saw on New York City streets was horse and buggy. There was one car on the street, one car on the street. It was a Model T. That person was considered to be crazy. They were eccentric. They were rich. They just didn't know what they were doing. No reason will ever have the car. Less than 10 years later, there were no horse and buggies on the road in New York. They were outlawed, right? And still
yeah,
around the world, they were around the United States, they still were. But in the United, 10 years, 10 years. Think about today. Think about how fast we have moved in the last 5 years with technology. And we're moving faster than that now. And AI will replace a lot of brokers and investors on the street, because the machines will now think faster than us when evaluating stock, when
sure.
evaluating futures, when evaluating movements of commodities. They'll be able to do what we're thinking. I want to be able to take my thesis and narrow it down and boil it down to a trade. But that used to take me hours, days to come up with an idea. A good example that way, okay, great, the weather's coming in. Guess what? Natural gas will probably jump, futures will jump. Today, it's much faster. I already know the weather before most people do, right? Because we have amazing weather services. Two, I know when there's a draw or a build in nat gas, probably before anybody else does. And I know because why? Because we already see what's going on. That's what the advantages of technology. And when we keep up with technology and integrate it into our lives, it becomes a much easier to process in order to make decisions. If you think
Yeah,
about it, in the past, government data, you had to wait till you open the Wall Street Journal up to look at the stock price and make a decision and read some article you saw in the Wall Street Journal. Today, we don't do that. Today, we go on the internet. Now, today, we take ChatGPT, break it down, summarize it for us, explain it to us so we can understand it. I mean, I broke down D-wave quantum theory in less than 2 minutes, where I would have had to read a book, probably read dummies for D-Wave quantum computing to understand the whole thing. I don't have to do that anymore. And that makes me a much better, faster trader, speedier, and then I can understand how I want to make that move.
Yeah.
Um, in the future, it's going to be wearables. I'll be able to see all of that in my eyesight. I won't even have to worry about it anymore. And I'll be able to consume more data because the GPTs of the world will be able to break it down for us, create charts, generative AI, predictive AI in a way that we've never seen before. And I think that's to me is exactly what I've always wanted.
I think one of the promising things, at least when the AI debate comes up, is um, sure it's going to replace or remove, you
It
know,
already has.
yeah, people, right? But I think the thing that's promising is at the end of the day, you still need someone who's creative on the input side of things, right? To have these ideas and so on, and then use that AI to express those ideas in a much more efficient,
Correct.
logical way, right? Yeah.
We're not going to be replacing people in general, right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying to that is we will replace um jobs that weren't necessary in the past for the
Sure.
future, right?
Sure.
Let's go back to the analogy of the horse and buggy. We no longer make horse and buggies today, right? We no longer do that. The guy making the buggy whips are no longer around, right?
Yeah.
Because in the future they needed gasoline. And
Yeah.
to make gasoline, it was very hard, very expensive. There were no interstate roads. Did you know it took us until the mid 50s at Eisenhower to create the interstate highway?
Yeah.
1950s. Today we don't. Today we get angry when there's traffic on the road between one place. My goodness, between my house and your house, Alligator Alley is always backed up, right?
Yeah.
We get angry about that. We want better roads, right, and to create faster roads. The other day I saw, we're now switching over where gasoline stations are now adding electric vehicle charging stations, not just, and in those charging stations are now adding places to go pick up a gallon of milk or eggs. They are correcting, and you know what? In the past, we didn't. How many people does so I guess it's still in New Jersey, but how many people do you when you're getting gas for your car are pumping the gas for you? None. But but only about 15, 16 years ago, you didn't pump your own gas,
Yeah.
right? We don't think of that today, right? We pump our own gas today, right?
That's
And then the
still in some places, right? New
yes,
Jersey.
New Jersey is one of the few places that still does that.
I
But
remember, yeah, yeah. I remember that first time I went to New Jersey and I drove through. I'm like, what are you doing?
right, and but you didn't understand. But think about the future now. We're gonna look back and say, you put gasoline in your car? What you did? What? I mean, 20 years from now, it'll be like you drove a vehicle that had fossil fuel. People will make fun of us for doing it.
Yeah,
We make fun of people that would drove around the horse and buggies back then. Like how are there shocks on there that horse and buggy? But today we don't think of that, right? We don't think of cars. If I told you 10 years ago, and I said this everywhere, the cars will you'll talk to your car and the car will drive itself. People thought I was crazy. Today, we don't even think about that. Cars drive themselves all the time now. We have vehicles like Tesla that now will sell software to other companies in order to make that speedier, right?
yeah, yeah,
What if I told you that 15 years from now, you'll be able to jump in your VTOL, your vertical takeoff on your in your vehicle and be able to launch it into the air, right? People are like, what? No. Yes, it's already happening now. We're already seeing those vehicles already, and you won't need an airplane license to drive your vehicle in the air. It'll be lanes. I think that'll happen within 20 years, actually, of us. I don't. That may not even take that long because the speed of. What if I told you that AI is helping people create faster drugs to market to help diseases that we didn't even know we could cure because the machine is that much faster, and we need quantum computing and we need a better electricity, right? So we're seeing massive moves in electricity. We're going back to nuclear, believe it or not, right? Why? Because we need that massive amount of electricity to make those microtransactions. In the future, if I told you 25 years ago that you as a person, let's people think credit cards have been around forever. They weren't. The first credit card was a Diners Club card, right? So when you went to the restaurant to buy a Diners Club card, we didn't even swipe it, right? It went on a machine. You and you signed a piece of paper and you hope the bank paid the bill. and then the bank charged you a month later. We don't even think about that today. Today it's PayPal and Venmo and all other ways of in the future we'll have digital currency will be running around everywhere. We have a new administration that's going to come in that's talking about where we have microtransactions everywhere. You'll be buying clothes with Bitcoin in the future. What? No, yes, you will be. Yeah. And if I told you that a coin called Fart Coin is now worth $1.3 billion, if you had told me that 20 years ago, like, that's a little far-fetched. It's not. It's happening, right? So people are creating their own currency. So the technology that's moving that we had from me picking the phone up off the wall as a trader 33 years ago isn't happening today. We don't do those things today. The way of trading has changed so much, and I think in the next 5 years it'll change even faster. People love the pits. But what if I told you we could be in the pits in virtual reality and trade and use hand signals? I think that's definitely coming. I think that when we think about it from the perspective of the user experience, people want experiences. They don't want to just do their homework and say, okay, this is why I'm buying this stock. And then Tesla has jumped $3 since I talked crap. So, what if I told you that the user is looking for a better experience? They don't just want to find news and implement that news, but they want to do it in a way that's more comfortable to them. Being in their home and trading from their home. 5 years ago, that was not normal. Now, after COVID, it's become very normal. Now, I work from home many years. But what if I said that in the future we might just go hang out with friends in a coffee shop and trade in our computers in a wearable, in an Oculus or an Apple Vision Pro, and we'll all be able to see the same things. And we can go out in the park and sit in the park, actually experiencing experiences, meaning that we want the experience of being outside, or we want the experience of being on the beach, but we also want the experience of being on a trading floor. So what if we could do both? Through a wearable, through glasses, through your phone, through your watch, whatever that
Yeah.
wearable ends up being. I think we'll want the experience of the experiences. And that's where I think the world's going. I think we won't want to go to the local place. We'll want to go where other people are already going to. That's going to be places that serve food, that have theme parks. My goodness, what if we could trade? What if we have a theme park for investing? How
Sure.
crazy would that be? I don't think it's crazy. I think we'll have a theme park of investing. I think it'll be places that people gravitate to that are investors.
Mhm.
We're already seeing that now online. Well, I think they'll gravitate in real life eventually. There'll be meetups at restaurants or meetups in places. That's where I think the world's going to. And that's why I think that technology, we need to embrace it and not poo-poo it. Not say, oh, AI is going to replace my job. Great. I hope it does. I hope it replaces my job. I
Yeah.
I I want the world to grow. You know what? I don't trade the same way that I traded 5 years ago. I don't trade the same because we need to, as people, also grow.
Yeah.
I learned that a long time ago. If we're against the new way of thinking, oh, I don't want to do that. Then you're not going to keep up, and you're not going to understand the world that's around you, and you're going to be grumpy old grandpa saying, "Get off my lawn." I
Yeah.
don't. That's not going to be the future because people are younger and younger and younger, and they're going to still be more people, and they're going to do things differently, and technology is not going to stop. Um, think about this for a second. Windows 95 came out. When it came out, it crashed on the stage. Bill Gates was embarrassed. There was Jay Leno, and it literally crashed on stage. What if I told you Apple went bankrupt? Not once, but twice, right? What if those innovators stopped innovating,
Mhm.
right? We wouldn't have the things that we have today. Failure is an option. It's going to happen, but it's whether or not we continue to move. And when you look at it from an investing perspective, you're going to see failures. You're going to see crops that crash in the burn up and not get enough rain. And then you're going to see bumper crops, and you're going to see better programs than Windows 95. Then it's Windows 98, and then it becomes Windows 12, 13, 25, right? And then it becomes OS 18 and OS 55 because that's what happens. We continue to innovate. And when I see companies innovate, that's when I invest in them. I also, so it's not, technology is not just about utilization of it. It's about also learning how to make money off of it. It's also learning about how to create better opportunities for yourself, right? For a good example of that in real estate, right? When I saw a crash coming in real estate, I moved properties, and moved to a place that was better. When I saw that in Florida, I saw hurricanes coming. We moved homes because and the home price here has gone up. I take advantage of the mispricing of pricing, and I take advantage of new data, and I take advantage of new technology and new innovations, because it's going to help you. Whether or not you like it or not is not, and nobody cares if you don't like it, to be honest with you, because it's still coming anyway. And I remember when the internet first came around, I was told, why are you studying HTML? Websites are just a fad. Um, Today we don't think that way, right? I learned HTML. Wrote one of the first few websites in the world, because I thought that was the next generation. Today, our platforms are looking at new GUI, graphical user interfaces, and I want to take advantage of that. We no longer just have websites for trading. We have React and Python and new versions of ways of building. When I first started, writing software, I wrote it in C and C sharp. We don't do that anymore. JavaScript is becoming ancient. I mean, I don't even understand why people even use JavaScript today. It's all React and Python, right? But even technology people were against new versions of how to build. Well, we can't do that. And I said this 7 years ago, that in the future we'll be able to talk to our computer and build our own software, that the machine itself will write code for us. It does that today, right? It's already writing Python and React code for us by speaking it into a machine, and it's actually spitting out better code, and it's going to clean up our software. It's already correcting software issues. Think about how many bugs we had back in the day. What if I can get rid of all those bugs by just talking to a machine and saying, clean up the bugs in my software and replacing it?
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now. And in the future, machines will talk to themselves. We call them AI agents. AI agents will talk to AI agents. So I'll set my AI agent and say, look, I'm looking for stock to buy, invest in. Here's what I'm looking to invest in. I'm looking to invest in technology. I'm looking to invest in we'll use NVIDIA as an example. I want to use chipsets, but maybe the chipsets are better than NVIDIA, right? Okay, but tell me where they're coming from. And the machine will lay it all out for me and say, look, there's a better line of chipsets coming from a different country that has no political issues. Great. Guess what? Politics plays another role. And you know what? The weather is better in this country, and this country doesn't produce. A good example of that would be, we produce a lot of stuff in India and a lot of stuff in Taiwan. But today we're going to be producing a lot more product in Vietnam. Today we're going to be producing more product. What if I told you that Russia produced most of the natural gas for Europe, and that got turned off on January 1st? They're looking for alternative energy right now. Maybe that turns them on to more wind and solar. Maybe that turns them on to natural gas. And all of a sudden, the United States now becomes an exporter of natural gas to Europe.
Yeah.
Those things, I'll be able to ask the questions of the machines, and the machine will come back and say, that's a great question, but here's a better question to ask. And guess what? Here's what everybody else is asking. We built that too within Quasar Markets. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying technology in the future will be much faster, much better, and we need to adopt to it in a way that creates that experience of experiences. That makes it that if you don't like your tablet, you don't like your phone, you don't like using your watch. Okay, fine. What do you like? And we'll tailor that to you. And I think that's where technology is going to get even better, is where we as innovators and technology pioneers, we need to be on the forefront of that, of not only to create new technology, but create technology that people will actually use. And
Sure.
so we need to understand human nature. And so human nature will not go away, and that will not be replaced by a computer or a machine. We'll still have that way in the future. Even if robots become humans in a lot of ways, we will still need to have that critical thinking. That now, will computers and will robots in the future become aware? Absolutely. In fact, they already are becoming aware. They already know that they are who they are, but they are what they are. They're still machine. They're not human. Now, will there be augmented humans? Absolutely. Well, we already have that right now. We're already seeing that with Elon Musk with Neuralink, but it'll be much better. We'll have body parts being replaced with augments, and and it'll make you a smarter trader. So eventually you'll need to have augments as a trader. Yes, I know that I'm getting a little super science fiction to a lot of people, but it's not really.
Yeah.
I think we're less than 10 to 20 years away. I've used the same analogy of cars to horse and buggy to cars. Same thing here. 10 years in 1912. Think about it from the perspective of now. Our movement in technology is now faster than it's ever been. And I think one of the things that will tailor to it will be psychology. People always ask me all the time, Steve, what is the number one thing that you would pick as a trader to make me a better trader? And it's psychology. Psychology, because you want to understand what everybody else is thinking, right? Herd mentality makes you a better trader because if everybody else is buying the same stock, great, the price goes up.
Yeah.
Everybody short in the same stock or same commodity, price goes down, right? It's a zero sum game because somebody's buying and somebody's selling, but still it's the prices. So we need to understand the psychology of pricing, and that's what makes us a better trader. Psychology of pricing comes in when you're using charts. And charts are not the only thing to add. I love charts. I've been doing charting most before most people charted because I was using graph paper and pen. But I think it's not just charting. I think it's technology, and I think it's also psychology, and I think it's also understanding the world around you. So it's being a well-rounded trader makes you a better trader. And a good example of that is I always say, trade what you know. It's a good example of who you are as a person. If you're a plumber, you understand housing stocks. You know when people are building homes. You don't. You know when people are getting their plumbing fixed or air conditioner. My goodness, air conditioner fix. Those guys are HVACs are making tons of money. They know when the price of copper is going up because you need copper in an air conditioner, right? That's what I'm saying to make yourself a better trader, have a better psychology, have better technology around you. All of those things will make you wealthier.
Okay. So when as you were talking, I finally started understanding kind of how does AI flag opportunity for you. And you mentioned a couple interesting points, like the whole psychology or pricing, and that goes back into like if you think about it, with like pits and stuff like that. Again, earlier we mentioned how those are the clearest ways to understand supply and demand in the marketplace and to learn these different markets, right? When you're actually interfacing with traders and not just looking at a chart. Also, interesting point that you kind of brought up was kind of like things like Nvidia and stuff like that. And earlier, the discussion around like politics and understanding how those things influence. If you think about that, Nvidia being kind of like a bigger stock in something like the S&P 500, right? What are the implications of there being some sort of conflict there, and how does that, indirectly affect people, right, through their portfolios and stuff like that with, some of these big stocks, and then the whole reshore onshoring conversation and stuff like that. We covered a lot, but I mean, even talking about like, I have some mentors or whatever when it comes to trading that, 10 years ago, 2015, they were talking about like, how do I take a large order and break it up into smaller pieces so it's filled electronically and it doesn't go to a floor or something like that, right? Yeah. So it's crazy how quick, now it's 2025. I mean, you have very few pits around, maybe like the SPX or like the VIX pits and stuff like that, right? Something needs to fill at a price, so that's where those pits come in, right? And
But we still have open cry pits. I mean,
yeah,
we
yeah,
use SIBO does a great job of that. The S&P pit up in Chicago, and we do have open cry, right? But at the same time, when you look at from a perspective of sweeps, as you were talking about, we still have large orders that are broken up. We still have dark pool. 15 years ago, dark pools, you did not, nobody understood dark pools. You were paying big money for that data. Today, you can go online and pay $20 a month and get dark pool data. You can shove it into a website, you can shove it into an algorithm, you can shove it into to AI now, and dark pools are no big deal. Um, 20 years ago, what Warren Buffett was trading, you had no idea until the latest numbers came out. Today, people can see trades a lot clearer,
yeah.
right? Blockchain's going to change a lot of that. I think blockchain's coming to the markets too as well, so that you can't fake trades anymore. You can't spoof trades. I think spoofing is a big problem right now. Fake orders that are coming into the markets. You won't be able to do that in the future. And if you told me that zero DTEs were going to be the majority of the market, I would have said, yeah, probably because it almost equates to gambling. now it's what is it, 70% of the market now is zero DTEs. We have to adopt as traders. I may not like zero DTEs. I don't. I think it's gambling, but I understand it and I have to adopt to that. And I think that's part of what we as individuals need to do when it comes to that. So when you talk about Nvidia, there's so many things that can happen. Guess what? The dollar right now, the Dixie's at 109.07 right now, very high. So our dollar's strong. We can buy chipsets. It's probably cheaper to put them together here and buy the chips from over there. It's very expensive internationally for them to buy Nvidia chips. So maybe Nvidia price falls down because maybe Japan and Europe can't afford those Nvidia chip cards because they're very expensive and the price goes way up. Yeah. Or travel is a good example of that. As the dollar goes up, travel becomes cheaper and cheaper. I can't wait to have a margarita in Mexico, right? Because the dollar is right now 21 to the peso. And that's
Go to
exciting.
Japan, right? Yeah.
Can't wait because I got a bunch of yen, right, that I bought last week. So, and I was able to do that because I understood the markets. And guess what? The yen is now coming back up because there was intervention by their economy. And all of a sudden, I took advantage of that. Now I've got free yen, literally free yen. Um, and that's great. So when I go over there, so, that's the kind of things that I always tell people, hey, take advantage of things that are happening right now in the markets. If there's low volume, take advantage of the low volume. Buy the VIX. You
Yeah.
know, if people aren't trading, I always tell people, hey, guess what? Guess when the two biggest times when trading slows down in the markets? Well, it's holidays. And the second time is around sporting events, March Madness. The markets always go slower, but you wouldn't know that unless you were a sports person, unless you keep your eye on sports. And I think that's why a well-rounded trader becomes a better trader too. So when you understand how those things affect, 7 o'clock in the morning, guess what happens? You better not be sleeping. You better be waking up. You better be looking at the China markets because China markets affect our markets.
Yeah.
Japan affects our markets. You know what? They don't sleep over there. They're investing in our market. Our US markets are the largest markets. The New York Stock Exchange now is what, at $30 trillion, $31 trillion dollars. That's bigger than all the other exchanges together combined. The Nasdaq and the New York Stock Exchange, those two combined are bigger than all the other world exchanges combined. And
Yeah.
so they're looking at our markets. They're seeing what we're doing, and we need to see what they're doing. We need to understand that, and we built that. Our platform now is in multi languages and in multi and the way that people in Saudi Arabia look at the markets are different. They're more interested in oil and silicon and sand than we are, right? We're very interested in the oil price of oil, but not nearly as much as they are, right? Japan is very interested in the price of rice. If I told you the second largest market in the futures markets is palm oil, and Malaysia is the biggest palm oil market, most people in the United States don't even know what palm oil is, right? And that's why I think that we need to understand the whole markets. We need to understand everywhere because if we don't use canola oil and we don't use regular vegetable oil to maybe cook anymore, we use palm oil, and a good example of that would be oil. Most people don't know, but majority of a barrel of oil doesn't go just to gasoline.
Yeah.
It makes lipstick and plastic and a lot of other things. So it affects prices. And the price of oil goes up. Right now it's $73 a barrel. Um, as that price goes up, we're now about 6% higher. Those companies have to charge more. The margins go to up, and all of a sudden, then inflation goes up, and that's not political. It's just what happens, right?
Sure.
Or the oil price went up because of something political that happened, because of war, because supply chains, maybe natural gas supply chains. That's why it's very important to understand technology, understand how to use it, and how to apply it into your life as you are looking at different commodities and different stocks.
Okay. Kind of moving for how much more time do you have, by the way? Just
I'm okay, I think. I took today off pretty much for you.
okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, cool. Then we're not in a rush. But before we kind of move on, I definitely want to talk more about Quasar and stuff like that. But whether it was working in government, right, White House, State Department, or whether it was your experience in markets and trading and fintech, what is probably one of the most memorable moments or stories that really shaped your perspective and how you view the world or express your opinion and stuff like that?
Well, I think working for Bill Clinton really changed my perspective on the world, right? To become better educated, to see the world in a much wider eyed. But I think the one thing that really turned me um, as a kid was being told that I can't do something. When you look at the world from a perspective of a mentor or a teacher, I can't stress this enough. Have a positive attitude. Positive attitude changes everything. If you have a negative attitude on the world, your negative attitude will change and will seep into your trading. It'll seep into who you are. Have a positive attitude. Be positive. It's okay to be mad every once in a while. Heck, I am. Me too. But overall, be positive. People are, in general, good people. There are bad people. We understand that, and you need to understand how to weed them out of your life. And I think that's one thing I learned too was quickly take them out of your life if they're negative, if they don't make a positive influence in your life. Get rid of them because they'll bring you down. And I think one of the most positive things that I saw in trading was when my mentor Jesse Curry said to me, and I looked up to him quite heavily, and I thought of him as just a god when it came to trading. And he said, Stephen, one day you'll pass me up, and you'll do it very quickly. And I say the same thing to people that are younger than me that are coming up. Listen, I have been trading a long time, and you're going to pass me up, and I will be excited for you when you pass me up, because I want the world to. I don't want to live in a world that's going down. I want a world that's expanding and growing and getting better and smarter. I want to live in a world that's better educated. I want to live in a world that people understand everybody else and smiling. I don't want to live in a world that says "get off my lawn," right? I want to live in a world that other people want to live in, right? And I know that one of the best things about your persona is that it's infectious.
Yeah.
So if you're positive, it's infectious for somebody else is positive. If you're negative, that person will be negative, and the other person is negative, and the other person, then it becomes a very negative world. The world we live in right now is very fractured, it's very split. We live in a world that anger and you're angry at somebody, and I want to live in a world that's hope. I don't believe in hope. I don't believe in the next world. I don't believe in that. What I believe in is doing, creating. Hoping and wishing is great, but hoping and wishing doesn't make the world a better place. What makes a better place is humans. Is what makes a better place is how we act. What makes a better place is how we change the world. The machine isn't going to change the world for better for you. We have to do that. Our psychology has to be positive. Our psychology has to be in a place where we are looking to better ourselves and to leave the world a better place than we found it. That's what I've always said. Just leave the world a little bit better than you found it. Let the next person, because you know what we do, and as my friend Tyler Wood always says, we stand on the backs of giants. I mean, John Adams says, Madam, I studied war and politics so that my kids can study business, so that their kids can study art and music. And I want that to happen. I want to see the world. I want to see the world grow. I want to see the world to be better, and I want to see us get past these negative reactions towards whatever we see on social media and creating all of these social injustices that don't need to be there. The world's already a place where there's bad things that happen. We don't need to add to it.
Yeah, that's one thing I always appreciated about you. Whenever I saw you in person or whatever, you were always so optimistic. And you looked at things from like a very opportunistic lens, like how can I take advantage or like, make a play around this, whatever is going on.
And
Uh,
not just for me, but for other people too. I
yeah,
think that's the key is to be selfless as well.
yes.
Being selfish is great when you're doing things for yourself, but being selfless also helps others become better. Because guess what? When others are better around you, I believe in I believe in one thing. I believe in an ecosystem. I believe that if we put better people around us, smarter people, I think that's one thing Bill Clinton did a very good job of. Is he surrounded himself with smarter people. Smart people surround themselves with smarter people. Smart people surround themselves with people that are more optimistic. Smart people surround themselves with people that see the world a little bit different, that half glass half full as opposed to half empty. And when you see that, you see what the world can be and not what it is right now. I always want to see what the world can be. I always want to see what the world would look like if we had done good things and not bad things. And when we look at regulation, I'm not always for regulation. I'm for common sense. If things are out of control and you have the Bernie Madoffs of the world, running around, that's not good for anybody. He became very selfish. If he was selfless and helped other people around him and built a bigger ecosystem, my goodness, could you imagine what he wouldn't be sitting in jail today? He would be Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett's very selfless in a lot of ways, right? He gives away his ideas and what he's thinking and how he invests all the time. Turn on the TV, turn on the news. You can see it everywhere with people giving away their ideas and talking heads. Yeah, they're talking their book up sometimes, but they're also telling you, "Hey, look, I see this in the market. You don't have to do what I tell you, but do yourself a favor and think about it."
At the end of the day, it's how you even we can, someone can give you exactly how they're trading or what they're looking at, but at the end of the day, they'll never be able to replicate the results because you have different processes and stuff like that to express your opinion, manage your risk, and so on. So I guess that's kind of where that part comes in as well. But
Yeah.
one thing that you kind of before we kind of I want to double down or talk more about the ecosystem things leading into Quasar. But you talked about like how every 5 years your trading style kind of evolves, right? So when you're looking at, you say you're trading Tesla today and stuff like that. Do you look at those positions as, standalone opportunities, or are they part of a broader portfolio strategy type
I
thing?
take advantage of of plays, right?
Okay.
Mismanagement of money is a big problem, right? When I
Yeah.
see issues happening in the world, I take advantage of that. Um, that's what I look at. Tesla got beat up because they missed on deliveries. They're still still growing. Like, why is it beat up by 17%, 20%? That's not right, right? It's okay, great. Because not all the traders are equal, right? Traders out there are not equal, and so you know, I always want to make sure I'm a better trader, right? So when I do that, I'm taking advantage of that. Now, um, I always say the same thing. If your screens look the same as it did 3 to 6 months ago, you're definitely not trading correctly. If your screens look the exact same thing, your charting is still the same charting, you're not doing it right because different charts and different scribble lines on that machine are used for different things. Today, low volume, right? So I'm using low volume descriptors and fundamentals. Um, Maybe next week volume goes up, so I'm using volume descriptors on my charts. That's a different way of trading. But am I also looking at trading as I have to go back to my original plan thesis. I need to be able to explain why I made that trade, whether it's a 1 second scalp or it's a long-term swing trade or it's something I put in my portfolio and never touch again, right? That's what I needed to understand in trading. And so you need to, and when you get out of that into the trade, should be the same thesis as you get out of the trade. Why did I get into the trade? You need to tell me exactly why. If you can't tell me why, you don't need that trade. If you can't tell me why you bought some biotech, well, I bought it because I saw it on Twitter. That is not a trading reason. That's an idea, but it's not a reason to make a trade. You saw the idea, great. Now take advantage of that idea. Someone told you to buy Tesla, great. All right, well, why? I need to be able to explain it to myself in seconds. And that's why I'm saying understand psychology, understand fundamentals, understand charting, understand it all so that when you see the idea quickly in your head, you can say, okay, I see what they're thinking, and here's why I think they're wrong, or here's why I think they're right. And guess what? I'm going to take advantage of that. They're right. And you know what? I'm going to take advantage of it too.
Yeah.
Um, or you know what? I don't think they're right because here's why. As long as you can tell me why, excellent. If you can't tell me why, then you shouldn't be trading it. And I don't care how long that trade it lasts. And the same thing on the exit. When you make a trade, you should know when you're getting out of a trade, whether it's time wise or whether you know it's a price wise. For my case, I told you the price of the stock that I was interested in, what I bought in, and then I was like, you know what? I made my 20 bucks in this stock. I know, look, that's 8%. I'm happy. I made my money. Great. Now, did I make a mistake? Well, it looks like no, I didn't, because now the price is down, but I'm okay because I made money. And I understand psychology is not just about making the trade, but it's about understanding yourself as too. That yes, I traded too fast, or no, I traded too slow. That you don't beat yourself up and you learn from your mistakes. So psychology doesn't just mean that; it also means your own persona. That's why I say be happy. Even if I make a mistake, I'm still a happy person, right? Because I could get down on myself. Why did I do that? Why did I make that mistake? Why did I invest in that? 2 days ago, Tesla went against me. But I knew what my thesis was. It was beat up too much. 2 days later, I'm out of this, I'm out of the trade, and guess what? I made money. That's also conditioning myself as an investor too, and conditioning myself in psychology. So it's not just about psychology of how, why, and when, and feeling, but it's also of the future too. Like, okay, yes, I made a mistake, or yes, I did great, but tempering that feeling because it's just money. It's just the numbers in a machine. So yeah.
No, this is really useful. I mean, the one thing I think about always is like, um, there's a lot of talk a lot of the things I do is mainly like options based or whatever, and you can know what the certain structures are or stuff like that, but at the end of the day, those are just structures. They're not
They're
actual
just structures.
strategies.
Right. They're
Yeah,
not strategies. Even if you put a even if you put straddles in all, it's not. You're
yeah,
right. It's just a structure of how you see the market a lot better. It's not a strategy. People
yeah,
keep saying, here's my strategy of how to win the market. There's no such thing as strategies in a market,
yeah.
right? It's okay. I know what I want to do. How do I do it? If you understand the actual fundamentals of the markets and how they work, that's why I tell people never trade paper trade. If you're going to paper trade, only paper trade to understand how to make the trade. You've never bought a stock in your life. Right. You need to learn how to buy a stock. You need to know how to short it.
Yeah.
You need to learn to how to buy an option. You need to understand how once you understand the fundamentals of the actual mechanism, the mechanical side of trading, everything else will fall into place because the psychology of trading is not going to come out in a paper trade. You're not going to feel that umph when it comes to the being short or being long and being wrong or being right. That only comes with time, and time is what will make you a better trader too, as well. And doing it, repetition. Oh, you made a mistake, you failed. Well, that doesn't mean you stop trading. You just keep trading. You do not stop. You keep going. If I stop because I lost my first $10,000 on the floor of the CMEX, I wouldn't be where I am today. You know, my parents, uh, you know, they advised me maybe I should stop trading. No, right? The answer is always no. Keep going. Keep. And now today I run a large company, and because it's trading, right? So that's what I'm saying. Now you need to have passion. Passion is not passion about your trading. Passion is about what you do. Passion is about how you to react
Process.
to trade, the process, correct. It's not about I'm passionate about trading. I love trading. No one loves trading. If you love trading, there's something wrong with you. Need to learn, you need to love the process and the fun things around it because 99% of trading is boring, right?
Yes.
You're sitting and watching screens all day. That's not fun. Looking at Twitter feeds and looking at all the data that's coming, that's not always fun. I like learning. I love that. But it's the passion about the mechanism of how the markets work and all the things that, you know what? Oh, you know what? I just saw something. Hey, guess what? I like that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I just saw a company talking about agriculture and how they're going to make speed up the farming timing, planting time, and how they're going to do that? Well, technology and robo machines, and that's great, right? Less farmers getting hurt in the field, awesome, right? More will produce more food. It's great for the whole world. That's great how they do that. And then that's the kind of things that I love, and I think that passion drives me all the time.
Kind of going back, you said another thing that kind of stuck out is if your screens are not different every 3 to 6 months,
Yeah.
you're doing something wrong, right? And no, I totally agree with that because it's like it goes back to the whole thing about like every 5 years, your style continues to change and evolve and improve and so on.
Say even faster. I would say 3 to 6 months, maybe it's even quicker now because the world is moving so fast. When I was talking about AI and quantum computing stocks, I mean, here's a good example of that. But back in March, I was screaming Palantir. I was told, "Oh, Palantir's AI. There's nothing there," but they're going to get government contracts. Palantir was the number one stock last year, and I picked the literally number one stock of the year. And yes, I made money on it because I knew it was going to happen. I just saw it. I was like, I did my homework. Um, that's what the difference is, right? And I was passionate about finding those stocks. I think the future is going to be about energy. I do. I still think it's energy. I mean, there's companies that are building nuclear power plants for the first time in 25, 30 years. Um, we're going to need better power plants than nuclear power plants. We're going to need better alternative energy. And yes, we're going to still use oil and coal. Don't get me wrong. I grew up in a coal family. But the world's going to need a lot more energy, and so energy is going to be a major focus in the next year or two. And I know that. I mean, it's obvious if you don't think that, look around you. It's not hard to understand
Yeah.
that.
When you have that much conviction, whether it's Palantir or energy or something like that, does that change how you express your opinion? Right? Do you
Yeah, I
um
go on TV and talk about it. I mean, I did that with Schwab, right? I mean, look, I when I believe in something, I don't believe in pounding the table anymore. Like you got to get out of the market, you got to get into the stock. No, I'm just saying, look at these companies.
Yeah.
Look what these companies are doing. Okay, a good example that would have been IBM. Look, IBM got beat up. They were under $100. Disney was under $100. I said, look, under $100. That's silly. The parks are full. Do your homework. Disney Plus, the subscribers, Hulu, ESPN, all those things, they're gonna grow. They did right? Stock's now at 112. I don't even know what 111 a quarter, right? You would have made 20% of your money just by having a thesis that Disney World's parks are going to be full. A
Yeah.
good example that would be Hershey stock. I knew when the price of cocoa was going to go through the roof because I knew about weather patterns in the Ivory Coast. I knew that weeks in advance of everybody else. The commodities are right around 8,000, went to 13,000. Right? That's a 50%, almost a 50% move, 42% move in less than a few weeks.
Yeah.
That's like a crypto, right? That's not normal. And when the weather pattern went through and moved through and the geopolitical issues were done, they went right back down. And guess what? When it went right back down, Hershey's bought cocoa, bought lots of chocolate, and they hedged. And then the parks in the middle of summer were I knew the parks were packed, and I knew they'd sold out of all of their passes, yearly passes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hershey stock jumped. Then when it did, of course I bought it, and then I talked about it on TV. I talked about it on the internet, so on Twitter and social media. And so because of that, I knew what was going on, but I wanted to give that I wanted to give that knowledge out. But maybe let people make their own decisions. So yeah,
Yeah. So, okay, so kind of moving on into Quasar Markets, you talk a lot about ecosystem and then kind of leveraging AI to kind of flag things for you. At the end of the day, you're kind of the creative person behind the screens, and it's up to you how you're going to maybe structure things. But in terms of like making your job easier, you talk a lot about like having your screens look different every few months and so on. So, talk a little bit about where the need, what inspired Quasar Markets? What was that problem that you were trying to identify, at least for yourself? And then how have you kind of gone to kind of build this, execute this vision? Who's helping you build it and scale it and kind of go into that?
yeah, I was at the Bitcoin conference in Miami, and look, one of the biggest problems, and still is today, is the world of fintech is very fragmented. You may have the best charting system, you may have the best news, you may have the best, but there's no place that allows it to be in one place. I want everything in one place. I want to be the Amazon of finance. So that other companies that are fragmented and having a hard time, maybe they don't want to spend money on Google Ads, they don't want to do all those things that I love doing, um, bringing all that into one place. The problem also is that if you do have platforms like Google Finance or Yahoo Finance, you're stuck with what they have. The look looks like what they have. You can't can't tailor it to the way you want it. You can't move your screens around. Yeah, you can add a piece and make it. But what if I could change colors and add AI into it? And I only like options, but the machine knows what you're looking at. So the machine goes, okay, guess what? I know you like options. I know you like Apple. So here's Apple stock, here's Apple News, here's Apple everything. And it does it for you, as opposed to, okay, I gotta click a button here and everything else changes around. Or I click a button here and this thing changes. I want the machine to let me know how to become a better trader. It's going to know me, right? And or I'm going to tell it what I want to do. Hey, you know what, machine? Here's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in palm oil. Tell me everything about Malaysia. Tell me everything I need to know. Tell me about the supply lines. Explain to me the planting. All of a sudden, I've opened up a whole new world to me as a trader, right? And I always tell people, look, don't just trade one thing. Be really good at one thing. Because if you're good at trading Tesla every day, great. And you make money at Tesla, that's great. Do that. But Tesla's affected by all kinds of things. Food is affected by everything, right? Good example of that would be weight loss drugs, right? I said, look, weight loss drugs are coming. Eli Lilly's price is going to go up, and restaurants are going to go down because people are going to eat less and they're going to eat more protein. So I want to know that. So how do I know that? And I need to have those things structured in my platform so that it's in front of me, so that when I walk away from my desktop, it's still exactly as I see it in my desktop, but it's now on my glasses. It's now on my phone. It's now in my Oculus. And I want to see it the way that I want to see it, with my colors and in my language and in my country. And if I'm in Japan, I want to see what people in the United States are looking at. Or if I'm in the US and I want to understand the Japanese market, I want to look at the Japanese market and I want to see it the way they see it. And I want to see things that I've never saw before. And I want the machine to tell me answers to questions I didn't even know to ask. So let's say I'm interested in palm oil, but you know what? I don't really want to trade palm oil. It's too hard to get an account over there. Great. But you know what's in Malaysia? Okay, Malaysia's got this, and this. I want to trade that. How do I do that? Now I got to look for an ETF. So I tell the machine, get me an ETF per palm oil. And it does that for you, as opposed to having a Google search, having to do all those work. The machine will actually give me the answers before I even know to ask the questions.
One thing, in terms of kind of going into more on like Quasar or whatever, um, you talk a little bit, we saw like the GameStop saga or whatever. I mean, just kind of going back to maybe 2019 or whatever, you had the whole entire commission-free like movement, right, with like Robinhood and stuff like that was like the big narrative, right? And then we kind of moved past 2020, we have COVID, engagement increases, right? So the barrier to entry has been decreased, and then you have all this engagement. Then you have like these platforms like Wall Street Bets or whatever. As we're kind of moving on and these traders are growing up, their styles are evolving, just like our styles are evolving.
They're getting smarter.
Yes, they're getting smarter. Also, how they express their opinion is becoming smarter, and you see some platforms kind of growing up with them, right? So whether that's Robinhood adding retirement tools or more trading functionalities or whatever, or platforms like public.com where they have kind of like this almost like this social media type component or whatever, trying to play into this, collaborative investing type thing or whatever. So
Yep.
when you're thinking about Quasar and the tools that you have, how are you kind of positioning to kind of take advantage of these kind of collaborative investing ecosystem
Yeah,
type?
we have all of that, right?
Yeah.
We have all the hard data, all of it coming in. We have the chat. We have video so that people can communicate back and forth and create rooms and educators. We have everything. All of that's already done. But I want to take us to the future. I don't want to take us to the past or wait until we grow up. I don't want to grow up. I want to be the kid in the future with a humanoid robot already, right? And so I want to have all of that data already inside the machine. I already want to make sure that if it is social aspect coming into it, great. But social aspect is only one little piece of it.
Yeah.
Again, it's fragmented. So if you're a company that's only partially into social media with trading, that's great. But do you have the real hard data that comes into it? Do you have the AI component? Do you have the educator to explain things to you? Do you have all of those other pieces into one place? And I may not be the best. So what I want to be is I want to be the Amazon of finance so that I bring those great companies into us. So I want to be a one-stop shop, a real one-stop shop, which we already have. We got about 300 plus partners already. Um, including StockTwits and TradingView and Trading Central and all the big ones already. Nasdaq's already a partner with it. Google's a partner with us. I already have all that data coming into it. And what if I could take all that data and make that trader a much smarter much smarter trader because the
Sure.
data is now being parsed in a way that doesn't hallucinate, doesn't create weird answers that really aren't the true answers I'm looking for. I want the true data because I want the AIs to be attached to those actual databases.
Yeah.
So we did that in a way. Well, of course, we won two awards at Benzinga, and we won two at Finance Feeds in London. And so we wanted to create something that pushed the envelope to the next level already. And we've already done that by building Web3 and building it in a way that blockchain is your answers to. So that it keeps a trail of what you're thinking and how you got to where you were, and but also being compliant with FINRA and the SEC by giving you timestamps and telling you where the data came from. It's not fake data. It didn't come from Wikipedia. It didn't come from somebody's website that is an idea. It actually came from actual hard data facts. That's what I wanted to create. And I'm okay with the machine hallucinating because I want the machine to give me ideas, but I want the machine to give me ideas from hard facts and not from just opinions or not from just, what somebody thought was an idea, right? And
Yeah.
you can, but if you want that, we also have that. So we've also incorporated Google Trends and StockTwits and Twitter feeds. So if you want that input as well, you could also have that input.
And on the platform, you have these different crowds or whatever they're participating. Do you collect that data? And, because the only reason or as you're kind of talking, I think about another guy who I interviewed a few podcast episodes ago, and he's a hedge fund manager, but basically he's taking similar methodologies he used to kind of predict elections correctly to kind of participate in markets, right, and structure trades, right, depending on how the crowds that he's, surveying are thinking about markets or where they might move next, right? Is that an ability that you may have, right, or kind of being able to pull these people together, extract these insights, and is
Yes.
that something you can
Yes,
maybe
we
sell
we
or buy?
have the data lakes. We have the data lakes. We already have the web APIs. We
Sure.
already have the web sockets already attached. So if a company like a hedge fund wants to attach our data lake, they can do that.
Okay, got it, got it, got it. Okay, cool. And
We already it's already done. Yeah.
okay, cool. Now, do you have actual like hedge funds and stuff like that, like that are kind of embedded or working with the platform or trying to
Yes.
doing that? Yeah, yeah. Okay, gotcha. How, in terms of like getting people onto the platform, whether that's some sort of institution or a retail investor or whatever, like what does that process look like? I know you have
We
like,
have several ways. Obviously, we have social media, and we've got I mean, we are bringing bigger firms over a whole way, all of it, right? Because we're cheaper than the other firms, right? We want to be the Amazon of finance. We want to lower the cost and give you more. I think that's the key, right? It's giving you as much data as I can possibly give you, as cheap as I possibly can, and being efficient, right? A lot of fintech companies are just bloated with people, are bloated with employees. We want to be efficient in our organization, um, and not just use software because we have some of the best on Wall Street with us, but doing it where we use their expertise in creating a much better UI UX for the user experience, and doing that. We think that's the key, right? Is user experience should be much better than what they have right now, whether that's whether that's how they collaborate, whether that's right now there's a lot of traders on Discord. Well, that's old, right? Discord's old. It's Reddit's old. I want to read something now online. Well, okay, it's great because somebody's going to post something. Great. Well, what if I could do that in real time? What if I could take all that data from Reddit and all that data from Discord and just pull it down and or make it a better place to collaborate with WebRTC and Zoom and all the things that we incorporated all of that also into it. So the collaboration makes it a lot easier for the user. And so we think that key is what will make a better experience, and better experiences. I mean, there's nothing better than social media and the word of mouth than to get more people on. I'm not looking for 1,000 users on the platform. I'm looking for millions of users everywhere around the world. So that's why we're having it translated, and we are also have our ear to the ground as to what the user wants. We're going after the data that they want, putting it in, right? Data is very expensive, But if everybody's using it, that's the data that we're going to get, right? We want to be efficient in what people are looking for as well.
Sure. And when you're thinking about kind of the future of Quasar, I mean, I guess, before that, I mean, where do you really see fintech heading, right? This whole like trading intersection of trading and technology, where do you see that going? And then how are you positioning Quasar? Or like what kind of vision do you have for Quasar to kind of take advantage of these shifts? Or, where would
I want to be a lifestyle platform. I
okay.
want to be something that when you're at a restaurant, you're at McDonald's, you're walking down the street, you see new Nike shoes. I want to invest in that. And you do that through a wearable. You see it in the glasses, you see a screen, you see somebody, you see maybe someone wearing a new watch or new clothing, or you see somebody, oh my gosh, I gotta have that computer, or I'm at the Apple store. Oh, wow, that's really cool. I want to be able to make that trade in my glasses, in my wearable. I want the world to be where we're not stuck to screens. I want the world to be where it doesn't matter what language we're in. It doesn't matter where we are. It doesn't matter how we trade. It doesn't matter what we set on our screens, how we set our charts. And that we listen and we collaborate with others and make the world a little bit closer and a little bit nicer, um, and doing something good and doing something well. That's what I really want to see, and we're already seeing that now. We've gone from 0 followers on Twitter to almost 80,000 in less than a few months. Why? Because I think our data is better. We're doing it in a way that people want to see it, and but stronger data, better data, data that they didn't expect to see. I put up polar vortex data. Guess what? Natural gas prices fell. Why? It's getting colder. Why did prices of natural gas fall? Because there was a smaller draw on natural gas. They were prepared for it. That's why. And I want people to understand it. I want people to learn and gain knowledge and become educated and become a better person. And the smarter the person is, we've noticed that they're usually a better person, right? Um, well, the one thing that I want to make sure that I get across to everybody is that if a company wants to be part of the fintech world and they don't have the best website or they don't have the best platform or they don't have the best module, we can build that for them. We can build their ideas. I don't want their ideas to suffocate because they don't have money or they don't have the ability to build. They don't have designers or developers or software. I've got that. I want to help them build their ideas. I want to be an incubator for a better world. And that's what Quasar Markets essentially is. We want to be an incubator that makes the Amazon of finance. And we make better products better. We want to make sure that if a person has a great idea, it doesn't get squashed, that we put it into circulation and that we build it and create it. And I think that will also force the hand of technology to grow better and bigger and faster.
The thing when you said lifestyle investing, the first thing I immediately thought of was reading, Peter Lynch's book, many,
One up on Wall Street.
yeah, yeah, and he talks, investing in kind of like the things that you believe in or whatever, or
That
just like
book was written over 30 years ago, and it's still
yeah,
true today, right?
yeah,
In fact, it's my real first real trading is to read Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street. One thing he talks about is he's in the grocery line, and his wife buys Hanes pantyhose. Well, she liked him. Well, if my wife likes him, then that's probably a good idea. It was his first 10 bagger, right? And he talks about that, right? If you like something, it's pretty good opportunity. Someone else is going to like it too, and you're probably something you should be buying, right? If and that gives you a leg up. But what if I can do that in the lifestyle that allows me to understand sports scores? I was very adamant that my alma mater, University of Illinois, was going to win the Citrus Bowl. And I did my homework because I knew their our wide receiver was out, but I also knew that. And how did that affect the world? How did it affect the markets? How did it affect? Well, I placed a bet on, on us, right? I took advantage of that and we won the game. Right? It's the same situation. Take advantage of it. Why was the Big Ten going to win against SEC games? Well, to me, that was easy. And I keep reading all these articles, but no one knew. No one knew. Yeah, I did because I saw a lot of SEC players opting out of bowl games to go to the NFL. Well, if you don't have your good players playing, you're not going to win this because they're not playing the same way you won the games with. That's not hard to understand. So take advantage of it. look, keep your eye on the news, but don't let the noise affect you. But create that lifestyle. Understand that the whole world works. And you know what? If I stop eating sushi, which I love, if you know, I mean, I love sushi. I eat sushi every day. But if I stop eating sushi, maybe someone else is going to stop eating sushi, and all of a sudden, rice isn't as expensive as it used to be, right? That affects the world. So that's what I mean by lifestyle. That that let it become incorporated in your life, right? Don't just become a person who trades from 9 to 5 or a certain hour of the day because that ain't gonna work. I mean, it works for great if you okay. I only trade from 9:30 to 10, and that's what I trade. I've seen that a million times. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Probably works for you some of the time. I think it reminds me of the old adage. You can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And to be a good trader, you have to know these things, all of the things, all of the time, right? And so you need to kind of be a part of that. And that's what I mean by lifestyle trading.
No, now I finally understand kind of like the whole idea or like the direction of Quasar right now is like this whole lifestyle, being able to have like a wearable and then walking around and being able to like go through that information real time because these opportunities are always happening. It's not like a 9:30 to 10:30 type thing, or
Right. I
whatever.
mean, people who say that it's, oh, you don't have a mobile app. I don't have a mobile app. All the apps are already in the system. I have 300 apps within one platform. That's what I wanted. I don't want one app doing 100 things. I mean, or 100 apps doing one thing each. And I got to go to this to find this. And I got to go to I want to have all of it in one place.
All right. To kind of sum it up, how do you want to be remembered as a trader or a leader or like this innovator kind of on this intersection trading technology type thing?
What do I want on my tombstone?
Yeah, in the same
I
sense.
don't care. To be quite honest with you, Renato, um, I've always not cared what other people thought of me. I've always been a person that, oh, you don't like me? That sucks for you. I'm not going to change who I am as a person. You like me, you love me, great. We'll be friends, and that's great too. I have a very tight, close number of friends. And I'm a very loyal person. Once I have that person in my life, and don't screw up because once you're out, you're pretty much out. But to sum that all up into one little paragraph is tough. But to say how I kind of want to remember it was that Steve Orr left this world a better place.
Okay.
That he, you know, through his faults and through his triumphs and all of his wins and all of his losses, he stayed true to himself. He was who he was, to who he was, who he was, all the way through. And I think loyalty does that for me, and I think it also it keeps me grounded, right? I'm from Southern Illinois. I am a Southern Illinois kid. I went to the football game of the day, and I mean I fit right in because I'm from there. But I'm not. But I'm also DC. I'm also New York. I'm also Florida, right? So do I want myself to be by- pigeonholed by being where I live or pigeonholed by how I act all the time? No, because you may not like me because I got blew up at a restaurant one time. I don't know, whatever I did wrong or what I did right or what I built. But it's that I stayed true to myself. And I think the old adage, in all things, know thyself, right? So I want people to know that I didn't change. I have the same phone number that I've had for 30 years. I pretty much dress the same way that I have. I don't change, and I think there's a lot of coolness in that. That people try to change and be different and wear different like clothing, and they try to be cool. I've never done that. I just wanted to be me. So
Well, that kind of ties it up for me in terms of like the big picture stuff or whatever. Was there something else you wanted to add? I think we kind of covered a lot, huh?
I've covered a lot, man. I think you know more about me than I think you ever did.
Yeah, I know. This is good, but it's good to kind of have a better understanding of like where your mind is kind of positioned in terms of, working on Quasar and stuff like that. I didn't really
Yeah.
understand till today. Yeah.
So, and Renato, I'll tell you the same thing that my boy at SIBO said to me too. He's like, Steve, because man, you're a genius. You're brilliant. I don't really get what you're doing. I don't understand it. I'm like, okay, have you turned it on? No, but I don't really understand what you're trying to do. Okay. Play with it a little bit. He got into it. He goes, I get it. I understand now. I'm not tied to my desk anymore. I can make it the colors I want. It's me. It's who I am. And there's lots of tabs, and I can change the way that I trade and what I'm looking at today. And okay, you know what? Today I'm looking at stock, so all of my looks okay. Well, I can
Sure.
do it any some other places, but what makes you different is that I'm not tied to my desk anymore. I don't need an app. I've got hundreds of apps, but I also have all the data from everywhere else. And I
Yeah,
have AI, and I'm now talking to other people, collaborating. And it's not just a chat system, right? It's actual collaborating with people that I want to collaborate with. So think of it like Discord already in it, but better. Think of it like Zoom in it, but already better. And collaborating a lot the way that I want to collaborate, not the way that I'm being told to collaborate, that I got to be in this room because they're only trading XYZ in that room. Well, that's great. They're only trading options, but I want to trade options on Apple. And the machine knows that. So the machine makes an Apple room with options and tells everybody in the platform, hey, we have a room now for I don't have to go in and create it. The machine does that for me. That's the kind of cool shit that I want to create.
makes sense to me. Thank you, Steve.
All right, man.
Yeah, I
Thanks, Renato.
appreciate it.
All
Yeah.
right, bye.